It begins with a whisper you almost didn't notice, something brushing the edges of your thoughts, a faint shimmer behind the veil of ordinary life. You pause, unsure whether it was imagination or memory. That moment, half forgotten but impossible to ignore, is the first doorway into the manifest, the unseen framework. In this exploration, we will step beyond the borders of the visible, tracing the architecture of a reality that responds, bends, and reshapes itself when the mind, body, and spirit fall into perfect conversation. Stay with me until the end of this journey, because the final threads we weave together will not only reveal the hidden mechanics of manifestation, but will also hand you the keys to using them with clarity. And if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, do so now, because what you are about to hear will not just inform you, it will change the way you see your own power forever. To understand rewire, realign, receive, you must first let go of the idea that life is a fixed stage upon which you act. Imagine instead that the stage itself listens. The floor beneath your feet, the air you breathe, even the sequence of moments flowing past you are all pliable, impressionable, like wet clay awaiting the potter's hands. Most people live as if the clay is already hardened, as if the sculpture of their life was carved long before they could touch it. But the truth, the one the ancients whispered in stories and symbols, is that the clay never truly hardens. It responds to the heat of your attention, the shape of your beliefs, the rhythm of your alignment. The manifest, the unseen framework, is not a new invention. It is a pattern older than cities, older than language, woven into the bones of existence itself. In its simplest essence, it speaks to three currents of transformation. The rewiring of your mental circuits, so they no longer run on scarcity and fear. The realignment of your energetic field, so it resonates with your truest intention, and the reception of outcomes that once seemed impossible because you have now become their natural home. Each of these is not a step in a linear process, but a spiral, each turn of which brings you closer to an embodied knowing. You do not chase the unseen. You invite it until it has no choice but to arrive. But here is the paradox that keeps most from even attempting it. This is not a framework you use, as you might a tool. It is a state you become. Imagine trying to lure a wild bird into your hand. If you reach out too quickly, it will flee. If you sit still long enough, adjusting your presence until the bird no longer feels your tension, it will come of its own accord. Rewire, realign, receive works in much the same way. You are not forcing reality into your grip. You are letting reality see you as the perfect landing place. And yet, the visible world has conditioned you otherwise. The culture of constant striving has taught you to measure worth in the currency of exhaustion, to believe that effort alone will bend the world in your favor. You've been taught to build with bricks of urgency and mortar of self-doubt, always looking outward for the missing piece. The framework flips that entirely. The outer is only the echo. The true architecture is within. When you rewire the mind, you dismantle the hidden scaffolding that holds your limitations in place. When you realign, you turn yourself into a tuning fork, humming at the frequency of what you desire. And when you receive, you step into the paradox that the greatest acts of creation are often done without grasping, without forcing, like a tree receiving sunlight. Consider the night sky for a moment. Stars do not push their light toward you, yet their glow travels unbroken for centuries until it meets your eyes. This is the nature of reception. It is not passive, it is profoundly magnetic. It means clearing the static, reconfiguring the channels so the broadcast of your life matches the station of your deepest longing. But that broadcast cannot be altered if the wiring is tangled in old beliefs, if the alignment is fractured by contradiction. You cannot hold the vibration of abundance while nursing the quiet certainty that you are unworthy of it. You cannot step into the field of love while carrying the heavy armor of mistrust. The unseen responds to clarity, not the clarity of logic, but the clarity of vibration. The deep hum of coherence between what you think, what you feel, and what you are willing to embody. Most people attempt manifestation as if ordering from a cosmic menu. I'll have wealth, love, health, please. But without the rewiring that dissolves resistance, without the realignment that allows you to live as if it is already yours, the unseen never receives the true signal. It's like whispering into a storm and wondering why your words vanish before they reach anyone's ears. This is why we begin with rewire, not receive. If the electrical grid of your mind is built on old blueprints, it doesn't matter how beautiful the house you envision. The power will flicker, the lights will fail, and you'll wonder why nothing feels stable. Rewiring is not about erasing who you are. It's about removing the counterfeit circuitry you inherited from a world that thrives on keeping you half-powered. Realigning, then, is the act of standing not where you are told to stand, but where your own compass quietly points, sometimes in defiance of the crowd, sometimes in solitude so pure it feels like the edge of the world. And when the rewiring and realignment are complete, receiving is not a lightning strike of luck, but the most natural conclusion to a process the universe has been waiting for you to initiate. It is the gentle inevitability of sunrise after a long night. The unseen becomes seen not because you demanded it, but because you became the kind of vessel that could hold it without spilling. In this deep dive, we will not treat these as motivational slogans or self-help mantras to be pinned on a wall. We will treat them as living architecture, structures you can step into, dwell within, and shape to your own design. And as we move through the layers of this framework, you will begin to feel the subtle shift in how you perceive possibility itself. You will notice that the veil between what you imagine and what you experience thins, until you are no longer sure whether you are crossing it or it is crossing you. This is not theory, it is practice, presence, and permission. And it begins here, at the edge of what you can see, leaning toward what you have always sensed. Every living system, from the spiral of a galaxy to the pulse of a single cell, operates on patterns, cycles of contraction and expansion, tension and release, silence and expression. The manifest, the unseen framework is no different. Beneath the poetic language and cosmic metaphors lies a structure as precise as the geometry of snowflakes, as deliberate as the rhythm of tides. To understand it fully, we must lean into its three foundational currents: rewire, realign, receive. They are not steps in a staircase, but three rivers that braid together into one current, each influencing the other, each incomplete without the others. Rewire is the art of conscious dismantling. It begins with the recognition that the mind you inhabit today is a cathedral built not only from your choices, but also from the hands of others, parents, culture, religion, media, teachers, even strangers you do not remember. Every brick is a belief, some true, many false, and most invisible to you. Some were placed gently, others were hammered in by force, repetition, or trauma. The wiring of thought patterns is the hidden circuitry that determines how easily energy can move through your life. Scarcity, fear, unworthiness, these are short circuits that spark and sputter, draining power. To rewire is not to destroy the cathedral, but to enter its walls with the patience of a master restorer, stripping away rot, replacing warped beams, and reconnecting the circuits to a cleaner, steadier current. Rewiring is not merely replacing negative thoughts with positive ones, that is cosmetic. It is about digging beneath thought into the raw infrastructure of perception itself. It asks, how do you interpret reality? What assumptions filter your experiences? If you were raised to believe that life is a competition for limited resources, you will unconsciously bend every moment to fit that narrative. If you were taught that love must be earned through sacrifice or suffering, you will unknowingly sabotage peace in the name of proving your worth. Rewiring demands you see these invisible codes and rewrite them in your own hand. Realign emerges naturally from this process, but it is not automatic. You can rewire your beliefs yet remain misaligned if your energy, your emotional resonance, remains at odds with your intentions. Alignment is not thinking about wealth while feeling secretly afraid of poverty. It is not visualizing love while bracing for abandonment. True alignment is the congruence between the vibration of your desires and the vibration of your being. This is why people often fail at manifestation. They speak in one frequency but live in another. To realign is to become a tuning fork that hums in harmony with your chosen reality. It is standing in the middle of your life and letting go of everything, every habit, every relationship, every environment that is dissonant with where you intend to go. This is the most dangerous part for the ego, because alignment often demands letting go of anchors disguised as comforts. It may mean walking away from careers that no longer match your soul's rhythm, from social circles built on the version of you that no longer exists, or from patterns that once kept you safe, but now keep you small. Alignment is magnetic. When you are aligned, you no longer need to chase. People, opportunities, and circumstances begin to recognize you as the natural match for what they carry. They move toward you as rivers move toward the sea, not out of obligation, but because it is the only way the current flows. Receive is the most misunderstood current. It is not about waiting passively for gifts to fall into your lap, nor is it the desperate clenching that many mistake for holding space. Receiving is an active state of openness. It requires trust, not blind faith, but the kind that comes from knowing you have prepared yourself to hold what you are asking for. The reason many people never truly receive is because they fear the responsibility that comes with it. They fear that once love arrives, they will have to keep it alive. They fear that once abundance flows in, they will have to manage it without waste. They fear that once a dream is fulfilled, there will be nothing left to reach for. Receiving demands the courage to allow yourself to be transformed by the arrival of what you asked for. It is the surrender to expansion, the willingness to step into new roles, to carry new light, to speak in new tones. It is not the end of the process, it is the rebirth of it. The relationship between these three is intimate. Without rewiring, you realign only temporarily, sliding back into old circuitry when stress or doubt arise. Without realignment, rewiring feels empty, as though you've built a new road but never driven on it. Without receiving, both rewiring and realignment remain theoretical exercises, never fully anchoring into the physical world. Together, they form a cycle that can spiral upward infinitely. Each act of receiving reshapes your wiring. Each shift in wiring deepens your alignment. Each realignment clears the channel for even greater receiving. At the heart of this framework lies an unspoken truth. The unseen is not hiding from you. You are often hiding from it. You hide behind unexamined beliefs, behind vibrations that contradict your spoken desires, behind walls you call protection, but are really prisons. Rewire, realign, receive is the process of stepping out from behind those walls and letting yourself be seen by the very reality you wish to call forth. The universe, in this view, is not a distant judge or a random chaos. It is an intricate mirror, always reflecting back the dominant signal you are broadcasting. When that signal is fractured, the reflection is distorted. When it is whole, the reflection becomes so clear that the line between desire and manifestation blurs. The unseen becomes not a place you visit, but the foundation on which you stand. There are truths that can be told directly, and then there are truths that must be wrapped in story, as one might hide a precious gem in folds of silk. The manifest, the unseen framework, belongs to the latter. Its principles are so interwoven with the subtle mechanics of existence that they often resist plain description. To speak of rewiring, realigning, and receiving without the language of metaphor is to show someone a map, but hide the landscape. So here we step into the allegorical, letting symbols carry the weight of meaning. Imagine a great city built in the center of a desert. For generations, the inhabitants have lived believing their walls keep the world safe from them, and them safe from the world. Within the city, they trade in dust and shadow, believing it to be gold. Every street is laid in the same rigid pattern, every building constructed from the same pale stone, every door opening to the same view. This is the city of the old wiring. You are born here, as all are, and you learn to see the sameness as normal. But one day, you find a piece of glass buried in the sand. It catches the light in a way you've never seen. You hold it to your eye, and through it, the sky is not pale and flat, but deep, infinite, and alive. The glass is your first rewiring, a single small change in perception that alters everything you thought permanent. You begin to notice cracks in the city walls. Beyond them, there is motion, color, possibility. The city still stands, but it no longer feels like the whole world. This is how rewiring often begins, not with a bulldozer, but with a fragment of light. You do not need to dismantle the city in a day. You only need to realize it is not the entirety of reality. As you follow this awareness, the rigid streets begin to feel less binding, and soon you find a hidden gate. Beyond the gate lies the river of alignment. It flows not in straight lines, but in winding, living curves. It does not rush, it meanders, singing to itself as it moves. Those who live on its banks do not build cities of stone, but grow gardens that shift with the seasons. Here you must learn to listen, not to the noise of the old city, but to the hum of the current beneath your feet. Realignment is this listening. It is standing on the bank and feeling your own breath begin to match the rhythm of the water. You cannot drag the river to where you are. You must walk into it, letting it carry you in directions your mind never would have chosen. The river's current carries you toward the sea of receiving. From afar, it looks like a vast mirror, reflecting the sky so perfectly that you can no longer tell which way is up. Those who reach its shores often hesitate, for they see in its reflection not only their dreams, but also the parts of themselves they have hidden. To receive is to step into the water, knowing that you will emerge altered, that the sea will dissolve the old skin of fear and leave you raw, open, and luminous. There is another story the ancients told in symbols. A gardener tends a patch of barren earth. Day after day she tills the soil, pulling out stones and weeds. She waters it faithfully, though nothing grows. Others pass by and laugh, telling her to give up, to plant elsewhere, but she continues. What they cannot see is that deep beneath the soil, she has been rewiring the earth, removing toxins, feeding the roots of something unseen. One morning, without fanfare, a green shoot emerges. It does not appear because she wished for it harder than anyone else, nor because she demanded it arrive. It appears because the soil had become a place where life could not help but grow. That is the quiet magic of receiving. It is the inevitable consequence of readiness. And then there is the tale of the mirror room. A traveler wanders into a chamber whose walls are made entirely of mirrors. At first he is delighted, seeing himself multiplied in endless directions, but soon he realizes he is trapped. Everywhere he turns, he sees only himself reflected again and again. Weeks pass, and the reflections begin to warp. He grows restless, angry, and then despairing. One night, exhausted, he slumps against a mirror, and it gives way, revealing an open field bathed in moonlight. The mirrors had always been doors. His alignment with stillness had unlocked them. This is the nature of the unseen. It hides itself in plain sight, waiting for the moment when you stop struggling against its surface and instead soften into its depth. You cannot smash your way through a mirror and expect to see the field. You must align with the stillness that allows the door to open of its own accord. The manifest, the unseen framework, is not merely a set of ideas. It is a living myth you are already living. The city, the river, the sea, the garden, the mirror room, they are all you. They are the symbolic landscapes through which you travel every time you rewire an old thought, realign your inner state, and allow yourself to receive. The stories are not meant to replace the work. They are meant to remind you that the work is ancient, that countless souls before you have walked these same invisible roads. And perhaps the most important truth hidden in these narratives is this: there is no finish line. The city walls will rise again in new forms. The river will take you to new seas. The mirrors will multiply in subtler shapes. The point is not to arrive once and for all, but to learn the rhythm of moving through these landscapes with grace. The danger in exploring ideas like rewire, realign, receive is that they can become suspended in the air, beautiful, compelling, but untethered from the grit of daily life. You leave a conversation about them feeling lit from within, yet by the time you're back in traffic, checking emails or folding laundry, the light seems to fade. The framework is not meant to be a temporary spark. It is meant to be a way of moving through the world that rewires the mundane itself until every act becomes part of the same current of manifestation. Integration begins not in rare, dramatic moments, but in the spaces you have overlooked. The thoughts you think while waiting for water to boil, the way you speak to yourself in the quiet between obligations, these are not filler. They are the loom on which your reality is being woven. Every thought is a thread, and every thread has a frequency. Most people assume their real manifestation work happens during meditation or vision boarding, but in truth, the hidden work is always being done when no one is looking. Rewiring in daily life is often subtle. It can be as simple as catching yourself in a familiar loop. Things never work out for me. I'll never have enough. That's just how it is. And stopping not to replace the thought with an empty affirmation, but to investigate its origin. You ask yourself, whose voice is this? Is it mine or something I inherited? Does this belief have evidence, or has it simply been rehearsed into permanence? Each time you interrupt the loop, you are loosening the old circuitry, creating micro-fractures in the wall so light can filter through. Over weeks and months, the old wiring becomes weaker and new patterns grow more stable. Realignment, when integrated into everyday life, feels less like a grand ritual and more like a constant returning. You catch yourself rushing toward a goal with clenched teeth and pause to soften your shoulders. You notice when you are speaking in frequencies of lack, complaining, gossiping, making decisions out of fear, and you shift, even slightly, toward the vibration of abundance or trust. You begin to choose environments, conversations, and habits that make you feel more like the person you want to become, even before evidence appears. Alignment in practice is about refusing to live as a contradiction. Receiving in daily life often requires the most courage because it means you must recognize and accept the arrival of what you asked for, even when it does not look exactly as you pictured. Opportunities may appear disguised as challenges. A relationship you've been longing for might come through a chance meeting that seems too small to matter, unless you honor it. Receiving also means allowing life to give to you without debt or bargaining. For many, this is the hardest part, to take in without immediately calculating how to repay or prove yourself worthy. But here is the truth. If the universe could speak plainly, it would say, "I have been holding this for you, just take it." On a practical level, the manifest, the unseen framework reshapes the way you work, relate, and even rest. In work, rewiring might mean refusing to measure your worth solely by output, learning instead to work from inspiration rather than compulsion. Realignment might mean declining projects that drain you, even if they promise security, because they pull you out of resonance with your highest intention. Receiving might mean recognizing when a new opportunity has arrived before you feel ready and saying yes anyway. In relationships, rewiring can look like dissolving the beliefs that love must be earned through suffering or that intimacy requires self-sacrifice. Realignment might involve choosing partners and friends who speak the same energetic language as your desired future, not just your past. Receiving might mean letting love stay without sabotaging it through doubt or fear. Even rest is transformed. Rewiring might mean dismantling the belief that rest is laziness. Realignment could be choosing ways of resting that actually restore your spirit, not just distract it. Receiving might mean accepting the gifts that come in stillness, unexpected insights, moments of deep connection, creative sparks, without feeling the need to justify them. The beauty of integrating the framework into daily life is that it creates a self-reinforcing loop. The more you practice rewiring in the smallest moments, the more naturally you align without effort. The more you align, the easier it becomes to receive without fear. And each act of receiving validates the rewiring, anchoring it deeper into your reality. The implications ripple outward. A person who lives in this cycle becomes a quiet beacon to others. Without preaching, you begin to alter the energetic climate of rooms you enter. Conversations shift in your presence, not because you control them, but because people feel the coherence you embody. Opportunities find you without the grind of constant pursuit. You stop living from the illusion that life is something to conquer and begin living as if life is something to collaborate with. Over time, you realize that manifesting is not about forcing the unseen into form. It is about remembering that you are the unseen made visible. The rewiring is your return to truth. The realignment is your remembrance of rhythm, and the receiving is your reunion with what was always yours. You began this journey standing at the threshold, looking into the shimmering distance of a reality you could feel but not yet touch. You have walked through the city of old wiring, wandered along the river of alignment, stood at the edge of the sea of receiving. You have seen how the principles of the manifest the unseen framework are not abstract ideals, but living currents that shape everything you think, feel, and draw toward yourself. Now, at the end of this exploration, there is one more truth to take with you. Not as a concept, but as an embodied way of being. You are the bridge. The unseen and the seen are not separate worlds connected by a road you must find. They are two halves of the same whole, joined through you. Every time you rewire a thought that once kept you small, you lay a new plank on that bridge. Every time you realign with the frequency of your truest self, you strengthen its foundation. Every time you receive without fear or resistance, you complete the circuit between potential and form. And so, manifestation stops being a chase and becomes a conversation. You are not standing at the edge of the unseen, shouting your desires into the void, hoping they echo back as reality. You are sitting at the same table with the unseen, passing each other bowls of possibility, speaking in the quiet language of resonance. The unseen does not respond to urgency, manipulation, or desperate negotiation. It responds to recognition, when you remember that it is already woven into you as inseparable as breath from body. This is why the framework is not just about creating specific outcomes. Yes, you may call forth abundance, love, health, purpose, but the deeper work is learning to live in such coherence that the unseen and the seen are constantly trading places. Today's dream becomes tomorrow's memory, and tomorrow's longing is already walking toward you. But here is the part most people miss. Transformation is not a single act. It is not something you achieve once and then guard forever. It is a rhythm, an ongoing spiral. You will rewire again and again because life will reveal new circuitry you did not know was there. You will realign countless times because your energy will drift, and you will gently call it home. You will receive in many forms, some expected, others so strange they almost frighten you because the unseen delights in surprising you. And in each cycle, you will grow less attached to the timing, the form, and the path. You will no longer demand that your manifestations arrive wrapped in the paper of your plans. You will welcome them in whatever clothes they choose to wear. The more you live this way, the more you discover that the true gift is not the manifestation itself, but the person you become in learning how to hold it. So here is the call, not to think about these ideas, but to live them. Begin today with one thread. Catch a single thought that is woven from the fabric of scarcity and unweave it. Notice one moment when your actions contradict your intention and realign. Accept one small gift from life without protest, excuse, or the urge to earn it. Let these be the seeds. The work is not to believe harder. It is to become the kind of being who no longer needs to strain to believe at all. Because in that state, You are no longer waiting for the unseen to show itself. You are living proof that it already has. From here, the framework is yours to carry. It is not a fragile thing that must be handled carefully, nor is it an ornament to be admired from a distance. It is a living pattern, a breathing rhythm, a current that will meet you at whatever depth you choose. Step into it not as a student hoping for a final lesson, but as a co-creator stepping into an eternal dance. Rewire, realign, receive, again and again, in spirals without end, until you can no longer tell where the unseen stops and you begin.